I have been in a relationship with my sister's best friend for over a year. Just when I was about to confess, my sister insisted on taking me to spy on her best friend's date. In the cafe, my girlfriend Anya sat shoulder to shoulder with another man, the two intimately feeding each other bites of food. Watching them kiss, my sister grew exhilarated. I knew Anya had something going on. She's definitely dating someone. Come on, let's go say hi. Standing before Lynn Anya, my smile turned bitter. So Anya, turns out you like hiding your boyfriend away. She panicked instantly, not daring to look at me once. My sister frantically called me several times, saying there was an emergency. After answering the call, I rushed to her side immediately. She was leaning against the mall's railing, craning her neck to look downward. Big sis, what are you doing? I walked over and asked. My sister mischievously pulled me closer and pointed ahead. Quick, look. Explosive breaking news. That's your sister Anyang, see? I've suspected she's secretly dating someone, and now I've finally caught her red-handed. Following her pointing finger, my heart plummeted. My secret girlfriend Lin Anyang was sitting with a strange man, chatting and laughing animatedly. My heart seemed to skip a beat as I widened my eyes in disbelief, praying I was mistaken. Stop staring, it's definitely Anyang. Quick, call her phone. I want to scare her, my sister urged. My sister wanted me to call Lin Anyang and ask what she was doing. Seeing as I wanted answers too, I dialed the familiar number. Lin Anyang glanced at the phone vibrating on the table, a flicker of irritation crossing her face before answering in her usual gentle tone. I'm busy right now. Let's talk later. Though her voice remained the same, it carried new notes of panic and unease. My lips trembled, but ultimately I couldn't voice the question lingering on my tongue. Are you seeing someone else right now? When I remained silent, Lin Anya's tone cooled down. We'll talk later then. I'm hanging up. After the call ended, my sister's face grew increasingly excited. I knew it. Let's go. Before I could even react, she grabbed my hand and dashed with me to the cafe. Xiaoyan, you go ahead. Sis will give her a surprise. Saying this, she hid behind me and started pushing me forward. Lin Anya, who was sipping coffee, caught sight of me in her peripheral vision. She choked slightly, her expression instantly darkening as she spoke with displeasure. What are you doing here? Following me. Before I could respond, my sister sprang out from behind me. Holding up her phone to take photos of Lin Anya, she declared loudly. Sisters, conclusive evidence here. Yaya is already taken. Isn't it her turn to treat us to drinks this time? Upon seeing my sister's appearance, Lin Anya's gaze softened instantly, a forced smile appearing on her face. She linked arms with the man beside her and said with strained expression, Yin Yin, what brings you here? Before my sister could respond, the man next to Lin Anya graciously extended his greeting. You must be Xiao Yan, the best friend Yaya always mentions? Hello, I'm Song Yun, Yaya's boyfriend. We'll treat you both to dinner when time allows. Song Yun was dressed in a white shirt and wore gold-rimmed glasses, exuding both nobility and scholarly refinement. When he spoke, his words carried a warm and encouraging tone that felt like spring breeze. The two of them snuggled closely together, and I saw the tenderness and affection in Lin Anya's eyes. At this moment, staring at Lin Anya, who had been in a relationship for a year, she felt like a complete stranger to me. Last night we were still on a date together, dining, watching movies. We had clearly agreed to tell your sister about our relationship, face her anger together, and from then on be together openly, without having to sneak around. Yet who could have imagined the girl I trusted so deeply would become unrecognizably different overnight? What are you standing there for? Aren't you going to greet Sister Anyan? My sister, unaware of the situation, nudged me. I forced a bitter smile, clenching the bitterness in my heart, and said through gritted teeth, Sister Inya, I never knew you'd be so secretive about dating. Always hiding things. Lin Inya's brows furrowed slightly, her gaze carrying a flicker of warning as it settled on me. Her boyfriend Song Yun, however, let out a hearty laugh and looked at me. You must be Xiao Yan's younger brother Xiao Yan that Yaya mentioned? Quite tall and handsome. Must have lots of girls after you, right? He joked teasingly. I glanced at Lin Anya, smiling faintly as I shook my head. Lin Anya's eyes flickered as she lowered her head to fiddle with her phone. Immediately, my phone vibrated, a message from Lin Anya. Stop messing around. I'll explain tonight. Explain? What more is there to explain? I put away my phone. When I looked up again, Lin Anya had already tightly wrapped her arm around Song Yan's. Her sister used to find him so annoying, clinging to us wherever we went. Took forever to finally get rid of him. Song Yun affectionately ruffled her hair and said with a smile, You actually made him cry from fright, yet you're still feeling pleased with yourself. Lin Anya and my sister had been close friends since childhood, often playing together. As I always tagged along with my sister, I eventually came to regard Lin Anya as an older sister too. But later an incident occurred that made me start feeling estranged from Lin Anya, to the point where I refused to interact with her. This impression persisted even after I was admitted to the same university as her. She pretended not to notice my coldness towards her, always urging my sister to bring me along whenever they went out. She frequently delivered milk and fruits to my home for me to supplement nutrition and grow stronger, constantly buying me clothes and accessories, generously gifting me the latest mobile phones and tablets. She even personally presented me with huge bouquets of flowers once, saying, "People say a boy's first flower comes on his grave, but I want the first bouquet you receive to be from me, so you'll remember me forever." These actions were indeed deeply touching, but I rejected them all. Until my birthday, when I was celebrating with friends outside. Having been strictly disciplined by my sister since childhood, I quickly became drunk under the enthusiasm of my friends. Coincidentally, my sister had gone to perform in another city that day, so Lynn Anya stayed by my side under my sister's request, using "taking care of me" as an excuse. Several buddies tried to help me into the car together, but Lynn Anya politely declined with a smile, saying she could handle it alone. I wanted to push her away, but my mind was hazy and I couldn't even stand steadily. All right, listen to your sister and be good." Lynn Anya spoke softly, carefully supporting me into the car. She gently leaned me against her shoulder, affectionately pinched my cheek, and whispered tenderly, "Xiaoyan, be with me, okay? You're too adorable. Sister really likes you so much." Hearing this, my mind seemed to regain a fleeting moment of clarity, and I immediately tried to pull away from her shoulder. She quickly held me tighter, ruffling my hair as she said, "Still angry with me, HM? If we're together, I'll let you get revenge on me whenever you want later, okay?" I mumbled without responding. She leaned closer, staring directly into my face. "You've rejected me so many times. Don't refuse me this once, all right?" At that moment, my heart raced, and against my better judgment, I actually nodded. Afterward, she would cheer for me courtside every time I played basketball, wait for me after class every day to drag me to eat delicious food, and bombard me with endless surprises and gifts. For the first time, I felt the sweetness of being in love. As time went on, my sister began complaining to me frequently about Lynn Anya. "What's up with your Anyajia lately? She never joins us for meals or shopping. Always makes excuses whenever we have a girls' gathering." We all agree. That woman must be secretly dating someone behind our backs. Look at her grinning like a fool all day, her face glowing red while glued to her phone. TSK. When I catch her, I'll definitely make her buy us drinks. Listening to my sister's words, my eyes darted around guiltily, never daring to meet her gaze. If she found out that the person Aunt Anyun was secretly dating was me, wouldn't she swear my head off? After all, since the eldest sister is like a mother, my relationships had to go through her strict vetting. When I discussed this matter with Lynn Anyun, we planned how to confess to my sister. After all, keeping it from her forever wasn't feasible. It somehow felt like we were having an affair. Lynn Anyun joked, "If your sis finds out I've snagged her favorite brother, she might slice me into potato chips." But hey, being able to be with Xiaoyan, I'd happily be turned into potato crisps. I couldn't help laughing. What kind of analogy is that? If you want snacks, just say so. Now I sit across from her, watching another man hand-feed her food. Watching her bend her brows into crescent moons, gentle and lovely, acting like a cute little woman in front of someone else. My heart felt as if it were being shredded by 1,000 blades, dripping blood continuously. Because of our arrival, Song Yun ordered many snacks. But I, the foodie, had no appetite at all, even feeling slightly nauseous. Throughout this, Lynn Anya didn't dare meet my eyes. She kept her gaze fixed on Song Yun, eyes brimming with affection. My sister pretended to be annoyed, devoured all the snacks, then teased them with a joking tone. "Well, Yaya, you've kept single all through college and rejected so many great guys. Were you just waiting for our classmate Song Yun?" Lynn Anya didn't respond, simply smiling sweetly. So my sister turned to Song Yun beside her and asked, "Then why don't you tell us how you managed to win our Yaya's heart?" At this point, the corners of Song Yun's lips kept curling upward, looking rather smug. Actually, we were truly a mutual pursuit and secret crush, so we naturally came together in the end. Lynn Anya glanced at me, as if trying to stop him, but Song Jun had already begun recounting their story with great enthusiasm. A year ago, they had met at a gathering. Song Jun fell for her at first sight and took the initiative to ask for her contact information. In the following months, Song Jun wanted many times to ask her out for meals, movies, or activities. But seeing the numerous suitors around Lynn Anya, and plagued by self-doubt, he kept his feelings buried deep. However, they maintained contact and mutual concern during this period. Recently, they met again at the same type of gathering and both drank quite a bit. Under the influence of alcohol, they confessed their feelings and discovered they'd secretly liked each other all along. That night, they naturally became a couple. Song Jun sighed softly, sounding somewhat regretful as he said, "I should have realized her feelings sooner. I was just too dense to notice it back then. I mentioned to her that Alan was coming to town for a concert. So she camped out for 3 days and nights, sought help from countless people, and actually managed to get 2 tickets to accompany me in fulfilling my childhood dream. I furrowed my brows and asked, "The concert on October 15th? Yes. Were you there too?" Song. Yin looked at me excitedly, as if wanting to share the joy of that day with me. But my heart was filled with nothing but sorrow. I've heard this saying before. If one day I take you to his concert, then I must love you deeply. Because what I'm showing you is my youth. Since childhood, I dreamed of attending Alan's live concert. Later, he finally came to my city for a tour. I enthusiastically hustled for 3 days and nights, pleading with countless people for help, and finally secured 2 tickets. I planned to take Lynn Anya with me. On that day, I eagerly thrust the tickets into her hands and told her we were going to the concert together. There was no expression of surprise on her face, only a look of relief in her eyes. She told me that a close friend was suffering from a serious illness and wanted to fulfill a wish before surgery. That was to attend Alan's concert. With things put that way, I couldn't find reason to refuse. It could be considered a good deed on my part. After all, there would be more chances to attend Alan's concerts in the future. But when I suggested wanting to visit her friend, she said it wasn't necessary, then transferred me more than double the ticket price. Now that I think about it, was the friend with serious illness she mentioned actually referring to Song Jun? If he ever learned he was described this way in Lynn Anya's words, he might be quite hurt. I don't know how he feels, but I do know I was genuinely hurt afterward. I exhausted myself to get those tickets, wanting to take my beloved to witness my youth. Yet she took my tickets to watch my youth with her own beloved. How laughable. Since discovering this truth, my heart has felt like it's clogged with indescribable pain. I couldn't make out what the 3 of them were talking about at all. Perhaps she was worried that my gloomy face would be noticed by others, or afraid I might suddenly burst out with reckless words. Lynn Anya kept trying to pull me into the conversation from time to time, but I responded to them all with perfunctory smiles. While playing Candy Crush with my head down, my phone buzzed with a message from a graduated senior. I was about to start my internship. Her company perfectly matched all my requirements, and she had actively extended an olive branch to me. So I started discussing the company's new projects with her. Before I knew it, I became fully engrossed and almost forgot my surroundings. Until my sister slapped my shoulder hard, snapping me back to reality. All 3 of them were quietly watching me. My sister even pinched my face, examining me with puzzled eyes. "Xiaoyan, who were you chatting so enthusiastically with? We called you several times and got no response. You're not hiding a secret relationship from your sister, are you?" As the words fell, Lynn Anya began coughing violently as if choking. Then she fixed her tear-glazed eyes tightly on me. Somehow, I didn't feel like denying it anymore. "Sis, you're sharp. You caught me." My casual response made both my sister and Lynn Anya darken their expressions. "Come on, tell me who it is. How dare they take you without your sister's permission? Call her over right now. If she doesn't meet my standards, I'll make sure she regrets ever crossing me." "My foolish brother, didn't I tell you there are so many scheming women out there? They all need my approval first." I closed my eyes helplessly. "Sis, the scheming woman you're talking about is sitting right across from you. Maybe confront her instead?" Turning my head, I saw Lynn Anya staring at me with blazing eyes, her face a portrait of visible panic. Could she possibly think the person I'm chatting with is her? Or was she worried I'd expose the truth on the spot and ruin everyone's mood? If she understood me at all, she'd know I'm too soft-hearted to do something that would hurt others like that. After a moment, Lynn Anya couldn't hold back anymore. "Xiaoyan, you're too naive. You've never been in a relationship before, so you're easily fooled by others. So it's better to let your sister screen this person for you." I looked at her panicked face and nodded with a smile. "Sure, I really should introduce them to both my sisters." I picked up my phone and dialed a number. Lynn Anya's eyes were glued to my phone screen, trying to see who I was calling. The call connected quickly. I spoke naturally. "My sister wants to meet you. Can you come over to discuss now?" There was a 1-second pause on the other end. Then came a gentle voice. "Of course. Since it's almost dinner time, let me treat you all to a meal." "All right, I'll wait for you." The senior's company wasn't far from here, and her Mercedes wouldn't get stuck in traffic. Within less than 15 minutes, she had already arrived before us. My sister had been constantly psyching herself up, intending to make a strong first impression on this future sister-in-law she'd never met. But the moment she saw the visitor, she immediately lost her nerve. "Xia, Senior Yusen Xia." While my sister stared in shock, Senior Xia maintained an exceptionally elegant and natural demeanor. "Hello there, Junior Yin Xiao and Junior Ani Lin." After calmly delivering her greetings, Senior Xia let her gaze linger on Song Jun for a few seconds before giving me a knowing look. The chemistry between us seemed to require no verbal communication. A single glance sufficed to understand each other's thoughts. Human connections work in mysterious ways. Some remain incomprehensible despite endless explanations, while others achieve perfect understanding without a single word. She walked over and looped her arm through mine, speaking softly. I apologize for being late. Then she handed a small gift bag to my sister, courteously adding, Xiaoyan didn't inform me in advance. As I came in a hurry without proper gifts, please accept this token of my regard. My sister froze for a moment, then took the small gift bag and glanced inside before letting out a shriek. This is too extravagant. It's completely inappropriate. She immediately tried to hand the gift back to Xia Yusen. The senior maintained her polite smile and gently waved her hand. You're Xiaoyan's family. This is my little token of appreciation. Please accept it. Any gift that could make my sister exclaim about its value must be extraordinarily expensive. I hadn't expected Senior Xia to put such thoughtful consideration into this for me, and couldn't help stealing a few more glances at her. Senior, you must have many things to attend to. Perhaps we should. I was about to suggest leaving together when she reached out to gently stroke my head, her gaze as tender as spring water. Nothing is more important than you. The words spread through me like an electric current. My heart was racing wildly like a startled deer. Humph! An ill-timed sneer suddenly cut through the air. Turning my head to look, Lin Anya's face was as cold as ice, her gaze towards Senior Xia filled with hostility. Senior Xia, you're an outstanding alumnus and a business legend. How can your standards be so low? I furrowed my brows at Lin Anya, never expecting her to say such words. My sister couldn't help but rebuke her. Lin Anya, how dare you speak like this? Senior Xia narrowed her eyes, exuding an equally dangerous aura. I tugged her hand before she could speak, then stood up looking somewhat impatiently at Lin Anya. All my former feelings for her had completely vanished at this moment. Senior's capabilities are naturally beyond doubt. As for who she values or disregards, what does that have to do with you? Lin Anya's eyes trembled as she clenched her fists and said through gritted teeth, I'm just showing sisterly concern for you. When even my biological sister hasn't said anything, why are you in such a rush? After speaking, I glanced at my sister and left hand in hand with Xia Yusen. It was during my sophomore year that I first met Xia Yusen. I participated in an architectural design competition where she served as one of the judges. My work, featuring novel and unique design concepts, received the lowest score. After the event, Xia Yusen approached me in my dejected state and said with admiration, Xiaoyan, your design concept is very innovative and perfectly aligns with my company's current philosophy. Would you be interested in collaborating with me? Perplexed, I asked, you appreciate my design philosophy? Then why did you? The scoring for this competition is based on traditional standards, hence the Our rating, she explained. But that doesn't mean I don't recognize the value of your design philosophy. With sincere eyes, Xia Yusen looked at me. On the contrary, I deeply admire you. Would you be interested in working with me? At that time, Xia Yusen was already an outstanding alumna and a leading figure in the industry. Being recognized by her, let alone being selected to join her company, was both a tremendous honor and opportunity. I grasped her outstretched hand. After that, I started handling some projects she assigned, and she often took me to various exhibitions and showcased exceptional works. We exchanged design concepts and innovations through mutual communication. It wasn't until later, after I got together with Lin Anya, that I gradually reduced my interactions with Xia Yusen. After leaving the coffee shop, Xia Yusen took me to the seaside. She said the gentle evening breeze could carry away bad moods. So I poured out all those ridiculous things about Lin Anya to Xia Yusen. Yet some words, even when spoken, didn't bring me relief or make me feel better. It was just like reopening old wounds to examine them again. Senior, do I look like a clown? I smiled self-deprecatingly. Who could deny that the me sitting across from them today wasn't a clown? Of course not. Xia Yusen reached out and gently ruffled my hair, speaking softly. Xiaoyan is a very, very good person. Those who can't see your worth are the wrong ones. Watching the roaring sea, my vision gradually blurred. Boys can also cry when they're sad. Letting it out might make you feel better. Xia Yusen gently patted my back before leading me onto a yacht. The yacht started moving, carrying us further from the shore. Now you can cry as loudly as you want. No one else will know except me. Xia Yusen softly stroked my hair, and my emotions surged to their breaking point. I wept uncontrollably. Like a child who'd lost his favorite toy, I poured out all my pent-up grievances. I didn't even notice when Xia Yusen pulled me into her embrace. After what felt like hours, I realized my tears had soaked her blouse. I awkwardly mumbled an apology. She simply smiled tenderly and wiped the tears from my face. See, she whispered, those unworthy of you deserve to be missed. You'll find someone who truly loves you. Perhaps the night wind was too strong, making it hard for me to hear clearly. Senior Xia seemed to say to me, Xiaoyan, would you consider being with me? I froze for a long time, my blurred eyes lingering on her face. My mind seemed foggy, and after what felt like an eternity, I finally said, Senior Xia, please don't tease me. I feel much better after crying. I'm not someone who clings to things, and after releasing my emotions, I've genuinely become more at peace. I had sincerely invested in this relationship, so I can accept whatever outcome arises. We stayed on the yacht, letting the wind blow through us for a long time. Just as Senior Xia had said, the bad mood had indeed been blown away by the night breeze. But ever since she spoke those words, I kept feeling there was hesitation and restraint hidden in the way she looked at me. Later, Senior Xia drove me back to my dormitory building. After bidding her farewell, I turned around to see Lin Anya emerging from behind a large tree. Seeing her again instantly dragged my soothed heart back into turmoil. What do you want? My face turned cold. Lin Anya stepped forward and grabbed my hand, her eyes flickering uncertainly. After hesitating for a moment, she asked, Xiaoyan, what exactly is your relationship with Xia Yusen? I didn't answer, just stared at her coldly. She tightened her grip on my hand, saying emotionally, Xiaoyan, what do you actually mean by this? Last night we were still discussing confessing to your sister, and today you're already with that senior? What exactly do you take me for? What do you even like about her? Just because she's rich and pretty? When did you become so superficial? I furrowed my brows and shook off her hand. The force was too strong. She staggered back several steps, nearly losing her balance. I watched her coldly, disgust rising in my heart. First implying that Senior Xia has low standards for liking me, now directly calling me superficial. What exactly do I count as in her eyes? Does she still think I'm that introverted boy from childhood who let everyone bully him? I looked at Lin Anya and sneered. Before you come to accuse me, why don't you start by explaining your own messy relationships with men? Two-timing guys and enjoying two people's affection must be so thrilling for you. The only reason I didn't expose you was to spare the other person being deceived in the dark and out of respect for my sister. If you still want to maintain normal contact with my sister in the future, stop clinging to me from now on. Lin Anya's lips parted then closed, her flickering gaze carrying fragmented vulnerability. In the end, she never spoke those words. Returning to the dorm, I brewed some Ganmaling cold medicine and collapsed onto the bed. The humidity was particularly high tonight. Having been exposed to the yacht's sea breeze all evening, I inevitably felt chills creeping in. I awoke groggily during the night. Images of Lin Anya surfaced in my mind. When we were young, she and my sister used to pull cruel pranks on me, taking advantage of my introverted meekness. As we grew older, Lin Anya's kindness toward me and those heart-fluttering words she'd spoken. Then the images began to distort, and I heard Lin Anya's disdainful voice. You've been a fool since childhood. A few sweet words would make you believe anything. You haven't changed at all. When I was 8 years old, my parents left for work and entrusted me to my sister's care. Lin Anya came to take my sister out to play but worried I'd follow them, so she suggested playing hide-and-seek. While my sister counted down with eyes covered, Lin Anya dragged me to the dark little basement room. She told me I couldn't leave unless she came to find me. I waited alone in the dark basement for ages, growing so terrified I wanted to escape. But when I pushed the door, I found it had been locked from outside. I screamed and begged to be let out, yet no one answered. Only when they realized I wasn't home that evening did they rescue me from the basement. From that day on, I developed claustrophobia, even struggling to speak properly for a long period. Occasionally at night, I still dream about that pitch-black, gloomy room where I couldn't see my own hand. The following days, there were no messages from Lin Anya on my phone. Instead, my sister occasionally mentioned that Lin Anya had been going out much less recently. She joked that this meant she had started taking things for granted after getting what she wanted. I could only force a bitter smile. At times, when she brought it up too often, my mind grew unsettled, and I replied with half-hearted emojis. She lost interest and stopped mentioning it. Later, I received a call from Xia Yusen asking me to visit her company. Coincidentally, I'd been feeling suffocated from staying in the dorm, so it seemed a good opportunity to go out for a walk. I've been to Xia Yusen's company a few times, so I easily made my way to her office. The walls of her office were covered with numerous paintings, and the desk was strewn with various design blueprints. The reason I called you today is to take you to an exhibition featuring works by outstanding designers from around the world. Such a rare opportunity. I immediately cheered with excitement. Xia Yusen took me to the exhibition hall on the first floor, where I realized the exhibition was actually held within her company building. This fully demonstrated her company's prominent position in the industry. She guided me through each exhibit, explaining their design concepts, stylistic approaches, and sources of inspiration in detail. I listened attentively without daring to let my focus wander. When I unexpectedly saw my own work displayed, I turned to Xia Yusen in disbelief. Senior, this is... She smiled gently and said, I apologize for exhibiting your designs without your permission. In the past, your works might have been considered too avant-garde to gain recognition. But now, when placed alongside outstanding international pieces, they not only hold their own, but have also received high praise and acclaim. I felt both overwhelmed and incredulous. I wanted to show you that you should never doubt your capabilities. On the contrary, you're doing exceptional work. My senior's encouragement filled me with warmth and strengthened my determination to pursue this path further. Thank you, senior. I paused, recalling the previous incident. And for that time at the cafe, if it weren't for you, I would have been so embarrassed. You've helped me so much. If you ever need anything from me in the future, just let me know. Xia Yusin looked at me and nodded. Her eyes flickered slightly. All right. She drove me back to my school dormitory. The next evening, I received her call. Xiaoyan, the exhibition was successfully held. There's a dance tomorrow. Could you be my dance partner? Before I could respond, she continued. This dance will be attended by prominent figures from the art and architecture worlds. It's a good opportunity for me to network. Without hesitation, I nodded in agreement. We set the time. The following day, I woke up early and dressed meticulously. While waiting for Xia Yusin downstairs, I coincidentally met my sister and Lin Anya. My sister jogged over, lightly punched my arm and laughed. Little brother, what's going on with you? You look really handsome dressed in a suit. Are you going on a date? I glanced at Lin Anya from the corner of my eye and nodded. Yeah, something like that. My sister immediately started shaking my arm excitedly. That's awesome. You actually managed to get together with domineering CEO Xia Yusin. Who would have thought such an outstanding senior would be calling me sister-in-law someday? While my sister was bubbling with excitement, Lin Anya's face darkened across from us. In the distance, Xia Yusin opened the convertible's roof and waved at me. Just as I was about to walk over, Lin Anya grabbed my hand. Xiaoyan, Lin Anya said urgently, you're too naive. Deep people like her will easily manipulate you with PUA tactics. Listen to me. Focus on your studies first. Leave romance for after graduation. I know exactly what game she's playing. Don't fall for her tricks. I let out a cold laugh and pulled my hand free. She always emphasized my naivety, essentially considering me an easy target to manipulate. Not everyone is like her, sweet-talking me into a dizzying whirl. Thank you, Sister Anya. I'm an adult now, with my own thoughts and judgment. I know who is truly worth it, so there's no need for your concern. With that, I moved to continue walking. But to my surprise, Lin Anya desperately wrapped her arms around me from behind. Xiaoyan, stop this tantrum, okay? I can overlook your previous outbursts. Can't we just go back to how things were? She seemed to pour all her strength into restraining me, making it impossible to shake free. Glancing at my elder sister nearby, she merely watched the scene blankly, showing no intention to intervene. I rolled my eyes hard. Then Xia Yusin slammed the car door and strode toward us. She pushed Lin Anya away with one hand, then delivered a fierce slap. Know your limits. I never expected Xia Yusin to resort to violence for my sake. Lin Anya covered her face, glaring at Xia Yusin with red-rimmed eyes. On what grounds do you hit me? What are you to Xiaoyan? I've known Xiaoyan since childhood. Where were you back then? What right do you have to interfere using what identity? We just had a misunderstanding that'll be resolved once we talk. He'll still be mine afterward, having nothing to do with you. I couldn't help but exchange an amused glance with Xia Yusin. Then she looked at me with feigned grievance, deliberately emphasizing, Xiaoyan, just who exactly am I to you? As a man, you can't just irresponsibly wipe your ass and walk away, can you? Hearing this, Lin Anya's eyes widened in furious disbelief. She shrieked sharply, what exactly have you two done? With that, she lunged at Xia Yusin, and the two women grappled with each other. Seeing the situation deteriorating, I hurried to intervene, but their struggle only intensified. Left with no choice, I had to call my sister for help. 2 minutes later, my sister and I finally managed to pull them apart. Both bore numerous injuries. Their long nails had easily drawn bloody scratches with every swipe. Yet neither had scratched the other's face, preserving a final shred of civility between them. Lin Anya's combat prowess paled in comparison to Xia Yusin's. Her injuries were noticeably more severe. After pulling Lin Anya away, my sister abruptly slapped her across the face. I treated you like a sister, yet you secretly hooked up with my brother and cheated on him. My sister shouted, but Lin Anya remained silent. I had no interest in their drama and drove Xia Yusin to the infirmary for basic treatment. With the dance party ahead, we couldn't let others see her wounds. I'm sorry, senior. I never imagined she'd attack you like that. I apologized. Xia Yusin simply smiled and waved dismissively. Xiaoyan, I truly want to know, what exactly am I to you? Xia Yusin said with a serious expression. Ultimately, I want formal recognition from you. I was stunned. For a moment, I didn't know how to respond. After all, I wasn't clear about what exactly we were now. Seeing my silence, Xia Yusin smiled and gently pinched my cheek. It's okay. You can take your time to think. I'm telling you this so you know I'm waiting. Embarrassed, I excused myself to buy her water and quickly left the medical office. Outside, my heart raced uncontrollably. At the ball, Xia Yusin kept introducing me to industry leaders she collaborated with, effectively sharing her resources with me. Only then did I understand. She didn't need a dance partner, but wanted to connect me with opportunities. The ball was filled with merriment, and we both drank heavily. After the ball, Xia Yusin took me for a walk by the beautiful lakeside in the villa area. Under the moonlight, I swayed unsteadily as I walked. Xia Yusin held my hand, preventing me from stumbling. Perhaps emboldened by alcohol, I began confiding in Yusin. Senior, though I can socialize normally now, I was extremely introverted as a child, too afraid to speak with strangers. If Sister and Sister Anya truly hadn't wanted me around back then, they could have just told me directly. I wouldn't have forced myself on them. After being locked in the basement all day back then, I developed psychological shadows. I even stuttered when speaking, so few wanted to play with me. I shook my head drunkenly, suddenly remembering. Wait, there was a chubby sister who liked playing with me. Though she was heavy-set, she had a kind heart and treated me well. But I heard she moved away later, and I never saw her again. Tilting my head toward the cold moon, I managed a bitter smile. I wonder if that plump sister ever thinks of me now. A gust of wind swept past my ears. Senior Xia Yusin's murmuring voice drifted over as if speaking to herself. Actually, the little chubby sister misses you too. When I woke up, I found myself back at home. The events of last night felt fragmented, with many details coming in bits and pieces. I patted my head and walked out of the room, only to be grabbed by my sister who hooked her arm around my neck with a sly grin. Xiaoyan, you've actually done pretty well for yourself. Didn't disgrace our family. Having Xia Yusin as your wife makes me as your sister quite relieved. At least she's way better than that trashy woman Lin Anya. I shook my head irritably and tried to go wash up. At that moment, urgent knocks sounded at the door. I walked over and opened it. Outside stood Lin Anya, her meticulously applied makeup unable to conceal her haggard appearance. Seeing me, she anxiously asked, Xiaoyan, who did you go home with last night? Your sister told me. Before she could finish, Xia Yusin had already walked out wearing my shirt and shorts, then wrapped her arms around mine and leaned against my shoulder, gazing at me with tender affection. It's my first time staying at my boyfriend's place, and I didn't expect to be disturbed like this. But Xiaoyan, weren't we up too late last night? You really should drink less in the future. Lin Anya's face turned ashen upon hearing this, her finger trembling slightly as she pointed at us. The look she gave me resembled that of someone discovering a cheating boyfriend, equal parts resentment and unwillingness. Her voice quivered as she spoke. Doubly, what do you two mean by this? Xiaoyan, didn't you say you liked me the most? How could you do something else like this? That earlier situation was my fault. I shouldn't have kept my relationship with someone else from you. During this time with Song Yun, whether we were dining out, shopping, or watching movies, I always imagined him as you. I thought I liked him. But now I realize I merely felt he resembled the way you used to be. Lin Anyun's eyes reddened as she pleaded. Xiaoyan, I'll break up with Song Yun. Come back to me. Let's reconcile and be like before, okay? This time I'll love you properly. Give me another chance. I looked at Lin Anyun in disbelief, never expecting she could say such things. Shaking my head calmly, I said, we're all adults now. Don't regret choices you made yourself. There's no going back for us. As my words faded, a voice sounded from behind Lin Anyun. So I was just a substitute all along. We saw Song Yun approaching slowly, a self-mocking smile twisting his lips. When I saw this junior last time, something felt off. Turns out you got caught two-timing. Panic flashed across Lin Anya's face as she glanced between me and Song Yun. Lowering her voice urgently at Song Yun, she said, listen, it's not what you think. Nothing left to say? Let's break up, you jerk. After speaking, Song Jun threw a bag at her feet, likely containing some exchanged gifts between them. Watching Song Jun's departing figure, Lin Anya appeared utterly helpless. When she turned to continue talking to me, I didn't hesitate to scold. Trash, stay away from me. Then I decisively shut the door. Don't waste anger on unworthy people. Xia Yusin gently ruffled my hair. I grasped her hand and asked earnestly, I should cherish the person before me, right? Her eyes flickered incessantly, like long-restrained joy finally surfacing. Of course. Or, don't you really want to take responsibility? We smiled at each other and kissed passionately, oblivious to bystanders. We almost didn't notice my sister hiding nearby, watching us with an auntie's grin. Not long after, I began my internship. With previous works and collaborative experience, I naturally joined Xia Yusin's company. With her support, my reputation instantly soared in the industry. My design philosophy has been increasingly recognized and praised, and I have become someone who can stand shoulder to shoulder with Xia Yusin. As for Lin Anya, I never saw her again after that day. I deleted and blocked all her contact information. Later, it was my sister who told me about her situation. After that day, both of her boats were overturned. When Song Yun learned he'd been made the other man, He decisively cut ties with Lin Anya, remaining unswayed despite her desperate pleas. He said, "I loved you and would have given everything for you. But when I discovered your deception, there was no reason for us to continue." Seeing that, Song Yun couldn't be won back. She tried to contact me only to find I'd already blocked all her contacts. So she went to my sister, hoping to use their years of friendship to convince her to persuade me. Instead, my sister gave her a scathing rebuke, declaring I was her beloved brother. She could let slide that they'd secretly dated before. But since she later hurt my feelings, their friendship wasn't worth maintaining either. Lin Anya's promiscuity ultimately left her utterly isolated and abandoned by everyone. Even the matter of her had been spread by someone unknown, sparking a wave of detrue and condemnation across the campus. This resulted in her work being affected, and now she's lingering daily in bars, drowning her sorrows in alcohol and appearing disheveled between drinking spots. After finishing the day's work, I sat on the office sofa, looking at Xia Yusin and asked, "Xin, aren't you actually the older sister who played with me when we were young?" Because that night I was drunk, I wasn't entirely sure whether she had truly said those words. Xia Yusin set down the documents in her hand, came over and wrapped her arms around me, saying, "You finally noticed? So, you've been intentionally helping me all along." She smiled and remained silent. I mused. It seems some connections are truly destined. "And so, what do you want to say?" Xia Yusin gazed at me with a smile, her eyes flashing with anticipation. I stood up, then slowly knelt down on one knee and pulled the ring out of my pocket. Xin, will you marry me?" Xia Yusin covered her mouth with both hands, her face full of surprise. "Before, I heard you mention that your family was urging you to get married, but you always said there was no hurry. Now, I want to give you a home. Are you willing?" She slowly extended her hand, tears glistening